Now, for parents, choosing a school is much more than just deciding where a child will receive an education. It's also about choosing the environment in which they will develop, thrive, and form friendships, learn to communicate and navigate differences, and begin to understand really the world around them, and better yet, to even prepare them for the real world of coexistence between both genders in the world of work and so forth on the sporting fields as well. So the question is, does co-education really give young people an advantage? And what should parents consider when weighing it against single-sex education? Because co-education schools argue that bringing up boys and girls together in the classroom gives them an opportunity to develop these skills from an early age and learning to collaborate and so forth. To share some insight, let me welcome my guest on the line, Mike Lambert, Global Education Director at Inspired Education Group. Mike, good morning to you and welcome to Channel Africa.
Good morning, Ernest. Thank you ever so much for having me this morning.
Oh, it's only a pleasure. So the pertinent question is the argument that co-education makes, right? That it is the right choice or the better choice because, coexistence between boys and girls is really what real life is about. It's what awaits young people in the real world. What's your thoughts?
I would take quite a balanced view on this, Ernest, to be honest. I'd say that probably no single school model holds that monopoly on producing these well-rounded and capable young people that we want. And parents are absolutely right to weigh their own children's needs and their own children's character and temperament and circumstances when choosing a school. But what I would say is, school is a rehearsal place for life. And the life that our children are preparing for is indeed co-educational.
But I was having a conversation a little earlier on with my colleagues Peter and Tsepiso. They've had the pleasure of straddling both education systems, the single school education environment and the co-education. Maybe, Mike, a more pointed question. Why have single-sex schools existed for the longest of time? I've heard of boarding schools for boys and girls, respectively. Why that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting and pertinent question. I think if you look at the history of independent schools, those schools that were founded in the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century were predominantly single sex. So those old traditional legacy boarding schools, usually founded by a mission or perhaps an overseas branch of another boarding school, possibly from the UK, back when society was more socially conservative and we believed that educating boys and girls separately was the right thing. But if you track that trend over the course of the past 120 years, predominantly you see those single-sex schools built in the 19th century, round about the turn of the middle of the 20th century, you start to see a balance and a shift towards girls and boys perhaps being educated in separate divisions until by the time you get to the 1980s and beyond, predominantly every new school in that independent school market that has opened has been co-educational. And I think each of these different phases of the growth and development of schools represents the society, the times, the culture in which those schools were established. So the reason that you see so many good single-sex schools is because they have that long tradition over 120 years. When they were originally established back in the day when boys and girls were educated separately.
So in other words, those that will come to the fore now might have lost or not have the gravitas, or at least for want of a better word of why those were established back in as many years as you've mentioned ago.
I think it's just a disproportionate representation of the stock of school that existed. So because those schools were founded 100 years ago, they were single sex. But if you look at the quality of the new entrants, particularly into the South African market since the 1990s and beyond, all of those schools which punch exactly at the same weight as those top tier single sex schools, they've all been established deliberately as co-education schools because co-education is the school of now, whereas single sex was the school of 120 years ago.
Absolutely, and Mike, I mean, whilst it makes kind of sense, even to me, I went to a co-ed school, and it's really what life is all about. What I learned there, navigating life is exactly what one experiences as an adult. But can co-education generally challenge gender stereotypes? I mean, they're not scot-free either, the co-education environments, right? There's pressure experienced by both boys and girls, whether it's through puberty and social media pressures of how boys navigate relationships between each other. There's also added pressure there, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, growing up is a hugely pressured time. Those teenage years, as we probably both remember, can be quite messy for both boys and girls. But I think what we want to do is we want to provide those thousands of small, low stakes opportunities for girls and boys to negotiate, disagree, lead and listen across those sort of gender lines, and maybe make mistakes in the safe environment of a school well before the stakes get higher when you're thinking about the workplace, a client relationship, possibly even a family relationship. And I think learning that, as I say, in this safe, low stakes environment allows then girls and boys to grow up and learn from their errors such that when they become adults, they've actually made those mistakes early. So yes, it's not going to be plain sailing. It's not going to be free from error, but that's what school is all about, right? It's a place to go to learn to make mistakes and to grow from them.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why that would be a good thing. And it also translates into a lived experience as adults. I mean, you are a young adult entering the world of work. Your boss is male or female, either way. Your colleagues are male or female. That's what real life is about. So it does shape a young person and gets them ready for the real world, doesn't it?
Absolutely right.
And and and
Yeah.
and and so how do we help parents consider between the two? Yes, we've cited some of the pros and cons, but what would you add in terms of empowering or arming parents when they're faced with this challenge?
Well, look, I'm a huge advocate of the educational free market. I think the fact that there is choice out there for parents, you've got big schools, small schools, single-sex schools, co-ed schools, day schools, boarding schools. There is a full range out there. And as I said at the start when we first started talking, Ernest, I think each parent really needs to think about the dispositions, the temperament, the strengths, the characters of their own son and daughter. And crucially, there's nothing that can be going and visiting a school, walking through that school, doing those experience days, those open days, if possible, even having a taster day in that particular environment to say, look, does this school resonate? Does it fit? Does it feel right for my son or daughter? Because if it does, I would actually say, it doesn't really matter whether it's single sex or co-education. Yes, co-education is the rehearsal space for life, but actually, if your child is going to be happier in any particular environment, you've got to lead on that in the first instance.
All right, Mike, we'll come back and wrap up and just get into the school environment as well and what the education system needs to do to ensure that it achieves exactly that, giving the best education, because ultimately that's what it's all about. My guest on the line, Mike Lambert, we're talking education, deciding between co-ed and single-sex schools. More after this.
Broadcasting in 5 different languages, connecting the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective.
The Morning Reset with Thabo Machaka.
To the man that is coming through between 3 and 6, let's celebrate him. Red carpet. Cameras, microphones all over you. And then there'll be those screams.
He's here! Oh, it's him!
Just saying, okay, yeah, I see you. I love you too. I love you.
In my dreams.
I love you, and just go, I love you too.
And I know straight after that I'm gonna sleep on the couch, eh?
Weekdays, 3 to 6 a.m. Central African Time.
You like what we do on Channel Africa? Then follow us on our socials
Channel Africa 1 on all social pages.
and get the African perspective. The African child. on the Journal.
All right, you are indeed on The African Child, our feature where we focus on a myriad of things that are aimed at helping the African child grow and thrive in life. And today, our focus on education, deciding between co-education and single-sex schools could prove a daunting task for some parents, I would imagine. My guest on the line, Mike Lambert, Global Education Director at Inspired Education Group. Now, Mike, how can schools ensure that co-education translates indeed into greater confidence and equal opportunities for both boys and girls?
I think, the ingredients of a successful school are now pretty well established. And I think, high quality teaching that is intentional about addressing issues across gender lines, issues of equality. I think engaging parents in some of those sensitive topics that we were talking about before, some of those errors that girls and boys may fall into during their teenage years, and ensuring that parents are engaged proactively before those mistakes happen. And I think excellent leadership. These three things: teaching, engaged parents, strong leadership of the school. These are probably the best explanations of why schools are educationally successful, whether they're single sex or co-education. It's about intentionality and creating those opportunities in an engaged community.
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, one of the issues we grapple with, among many issues in the country, is gender inequality, right? So, a co-ed school starts to chip away and address the issues of stereotyping, and rather make it about, if you're good at something and you outshine the other learner, it's not really based on gender and so forth. It begins to chip away and self-correct, right?
I think that's 100% right. Boys and girls growing up together does something quite subtle. It's eroding stereotypes by familiarity rather than teaching girls and boys that this is a good thing or this is a bad thing through lecture format. A boy or a girl who has spent years watching their classmate of the opposite sex outperform in any given subject, let's say maths, for example. If a boy has watched a girl outperform them in maths for decades, they don't need to be told that gender doesn't matter, that gender doesn't undermine aptitude. That boy has seen it, he's sat beside it, he's been challenged by it. And I think that lived daily experience is the real powerful complement to any formal lesson that schools may be trying to give on equality, for example.
But lastly, just for clarity, Mike, you're not necessarily advocating against single-sex schools, right? I mean, you've summed it up just before the break that a good school is exactly that. Should be a good school where kids can, get all of the knowledge and all of the tools to empower them to be better adults and thriving parents, as it were, right? So it's not one or the other. Am I hearing you right?
You're absolutely right. As I say, no particular school model has got this monopoly. A successful school is likely to have the same active ingredients about what makes it successful, and I think you can find those active ingredients in both co-ed and single-sex environments. I suppose what we're saying is, schools, because they are in many ways the rehearsal space for later life, the opportunity to grow up in a co-educational environment gives you that advantage by daily exposure to girls and boys growing up together. But equally, you'll find great opportunities in single-sex education as well.
I think well said, Mike Lambert. We thank you so much for your time and insights as well. I mean, this is a time when parents, if you watch the news, are busy, enrolling their kids for the next schooling year. So perfect timing. And we thank you so much for your time and insights. Much appreciated.
Ernest, thank you.
All right, that's Mike Lambert, Global Education Director at Inspired Education Group. It really is about finding the right balance, the right school of your choice, because no single school model holds a monopoly on producing well-rounded, capable young people. And parents have a right to weigh all of the options. And I hope our discussion has gone a little further in just enlightening the parents who are within our earshot listening to this conversation. We'd like to hear from you as well. You're more than welcome to send us a voice note on our WhatsApp line, +27 83 288 6684.